Welcome, everybody. Time for us to talk a little bit more about what it takes for you to stand out and earn more. I'm Scott McCain, as always, joined by Jason Bradshaw on the Gold Coast of Australia. Good morning your time, Jason. How you doing?
Well, thank you, and good afternoon your time, Scott.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Thank you. Same here. Uh, we have tended to wait until the end of our conversation to talk about it. But how about if today, for those that are just joining us, uh, we mentioned that coming up next week, we have the Stand Out, Earn More Live program. And so that is going to be very exciting. And Jason, if you will talk about it for a minute, I'm getting a message that we're having trouble streaming to your restream.
Yes, you are indeed having troubles. It's not coming through on my end,
Okay.
but not to worry. The next week we won't be having the
Yeah,
challenge. We'll be on a different platform.
exactly right.
The Stand Out Earn More workshop is delivered over 3 days, 3 hours each day, December 15, 16, and 17 US Pacific time, 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. And in Australia, that's Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time, December 16, 17, 18, 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. There's some bonus time if you're part of the VIP program, but US Pacific, 15, 16, and 17 December from 1 a.m. to 4 p.m., the Stand Out Earn More workshop, where you will learn how to create, or I should say generate, repeat and referral business without discounting. And if you were listening yesterday, you'll understand just how important that is in terms of growing your business. So learn how to generate repeat and referral business without discounting. You'll learn how to attract and retain great employees without increasing your overheads. And that also works for your contractors, your freelancers, those people that you trust with serving your customers. And then we'll wrap the whole program up with a nice bow to help you stand out from the competition without the gimmicks. And we all know how easy it is to stand out if you use gimmicks, but they don't last, they don't generate loyalty, and we're going to show you how to stand out from your competition so that you can truly build a distinctive business, so that you can earn more money, earn more credibility. Earn more can be many things. It doesn't have to be just money, but certainly that will be one of the byproducts of attending the Stand Out Earn More live workshop. You can register right now. Go to standoutearnmore.live. Registration is free, but you do have the option to upgrade for $87 to the VIP program, which gives you all of the recordings for 90 days and a bonus 1 hour Q&A session with hot seats at the end of each day, turning it into a phenomenal event and the guaranteed way to make sure you can move fast and get ready to have a great business, a bigger business in 2023.
You know, Jason, one of the things that strikes me is there's so many things in today's world that carry risk. You know, that if you there's a football coach, Bruce Arians here in the States, American football, who says, no risk it, no biscuit. In other words, there's got to be some risk to get some reward. That is not the case with this program. It is absolutely free to sign up. We'd love to have you there. And there's no obligation. As Jason mentioned, there is the opportunity to upgrade to VIP to get some extra bonuses. But the program itself and the content itself is absolutely free. So we'd love for you to join us next week. There's a lot of great information that's going to be coming your way. And Jason, we've got and the website is crawling across the bottom of your screen right now. Standoutearnmore.live, as Jason mentioned. So, Jason, I think this is one of the really, really difficult, challenging, and important issues. And I know we'll be covering this in greater depth when we're together for the program, but it's certainly an issue that is worth bringing up now. And that is, who's your ideal customer? And how do you define that? And what happens when you do define that? I think the other aspect that's really challenging is that many of us in small business want to appeal to everybody. We think that if we cast a very broad net, then we have a greater opportunity to close a deal, to close a sale, to make something happen. And my experience has been that's not true, but I'm really interested, based on your vast corporate experience, is that an issue that small businesses and solopreneurs should be concerned about as well?
Well, I think it represents a great opportunity for small businesses, for entrepreneurs to differentiate themselves. You think about, when I was the chief marketing officer for Volkswagen Group Australia, every single week there would be pressure on me to spend money to talk to everybody. Now, the reality is not everyone that drives a car could afford to buy a car that the Volkswagen Group sold. And that's perfectly okay. Now, there's also customers that could probably buy the entire fleet of cars, but
Yeah.
never would.
Yeah.
Yet, because, it's a global company, massive brand recognition for good and not so good reasons, there's always pressure to do these general campaigns. And I mentioned earlier in the week that businesses, large corporates, really struggle with understanding their return on investment, because a lot of the time you say, oh yes, but it helps people know the brand. It's like people saying no one knows who McDonald's is. Let's run a campaign so that we know who McDonald's is. It is not the way to successfully spend ad money and get a return on investment.
Sure.
And if you're so what would we do? We would, in every instance, talk about who is our ideal customer, who is most likely
Right.
to buy from us. Now, from an advertising point of view, we would also consider who are on the fringe, who are those fringe customers that may stretch up into the brand or may consider it as a second car, and they have their Porsche as their primary car, for example. And so my position is that you can't even talk about your fringe customer until you know who your customer is.
Yeah. You can't talk about the fringes till you get the core, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I totally agree.
And if you know who the core is, this is where your marketing becomes super effective, because you can use their language. You can talk to them in ways that they understand, not in a way that's trying to offend nobody and hopefully make enough people happy that they'll do business with you. Now, I'm not saying you have to offend people just because you know who they are, but it makes it so much easier to talk to them if you know how they communicate. It's no good talking to a customer about white glove service if they don't know what that term means.
Yeah.
Right? So I believe that unlike large corporates, a small business, a solopreneur, has the ultimate capability to really focus on who their ideal customer is. The owner, the team members are much closer to the customers. They're also not burdened by shareholder pressure to be everywhere and everything to everyone.
Dwayne says here, his ideal customer is the one that pays their bills on time. Bit of humor, bit of truth. I get that. I get that. You make such an important point, Jason, because one of the things that has absolutely fascinated me in the research I've done on creating distinction is that we assume that by being distinctive, we will attract. And that would be a correct assumption. But along with that, it means that being distinctive means that you can't attract everybody. Our good friend Larry Winget says if you want to create raving fans, you have to also be willing to have raving enemies. Mm-hmm. Because if you are positioned in such a way that people are going to be crazy about what you do, it also means by its very nature that there are going to be people that don't like what you do. That's really hard for an entrepreneur. It's really hard for a small business to think, well, we're going to turn these people away, or we're not going to appeal to this kind of group. But it becomes a great conundrum, I think, because we get businesses that are studying their competition, imitating their competition, and trying to be as vanilla as possible so that they don't turn away anybody. And in the end, they just become adrift in that sea of sameness. They are a commodity. They are, not indistinguishable from the competition. Joe Calloway, our friend, just chimed in. Your advice to know your ideal customer is spot on. The wrong customer can drain you in many ways. We need to talk about that, Jason. Joe makes an excellent point, is just the energy that it takes to serve the wrong customer. The ideal customer is likely to become a lifetime customer and will send others your way. Joe, that is as always so spot on. Jason, can you give us from your experience maybe an example, maybe with your organizations in the past, maybe not, organizations that you've seen that have spent a lot of energy, other resources going after the wrong customer?
Well,
Tough question.
it is. Where do you start? Think about a Motel 6. There's a reason Motel 6 doesn't advertise in the first class lounge, in the Admiral's Lounge, at the Delta First Lounge, because those customers, when they turn up, do they get a bed? Yes. Every hotel room hopefully gives you that. Do you get a bathroom? Yes. Like, it ticks the foundations of what a hotel stay will have. But if you're flying first class, you're probably more used to an experience that is a Marriott or a JW Marriott or another brand that's not a Motel 6. So if Motel 6 went and spent some money to acquire you, and especially in these tough economic times, it becomes a conversation. If I can get my hotel room cheaper, I'm going to consider it. But then you turn up and the staff can just constantly keep getting calls. Where is this? Where is this? Where is this? Why don't you have 24-hour room service? Why don't you have these things? And that my point is that when you attract the wrong customer, you actually spend more time serving them, trying to make them happy. I know, so many times I would have people, when I was at Target, we would have people call into our contact center going, my $5 t-shirt that's 3 years old has fallen to bits. Yeah, that's right. It cost you $5, right? And you've just cost me more money to answer the call than it did to sell you the $5 t-shirt. Now, it's a bit of an extreme point, but if Target was marketing to the luxury goods shopper, then the number of people that are calling in saying my $5 t-shirt doesn't stand up like my $5,000 t-shirt, it seems insane, but it happens every single day in contact centers around the world where they get call after call, complaint after complaint, because the product doesn't perform to the expectations that shopper has based on where they normally shop. And so if you're a Target, talk to people that shop at Target or that, or on the fringe of that, not the person that's going to buy the $5,000 handbag.
Yeah, absolutely. And vice versa. If you're selling the $5,000 handbag, you don't want to be advertising to the crowd that's going to shop Walmart, right? I mean, nothing wrong with shopping at Walmart. Nothing wrong with it if you can buy a $5,000 handbag. Good for you. But it's so true that the marketing messages are different, and the level, and that's become a particular challenge, I think, for a lot of businesses, is the expectation level of customers continues to go up. It's the old line about no good deed goes unpunished, right? We serve our customers. My great friend, Dr. Michael LaBeouf, wrote a book called Greatest Management Principle, GMP, Greatest Management Principle. It was since retitled Getting Results, but I like the previous title better. And here's the greatest management principle in the world, according to my friend. And I agree. Behavior rewarded is behavior repeated. The problem is we don't examine the behaviors that we are rewarding. Therefore, we get behavior that we don't anticipate. For example, to use your example, Jason, what part of what happens is that we do a great job for our customers. We serve them, they're buying a $5 t-shirt, but we give them $100 service. Well, what happens is that's where we start the next service with them. They have now come to expect that. They will elevate their expectations. And we're going, wait a minute, we treated you great that time. Then don't you understand? No, they don't understand. They don't care. They got this great level of service, and now they expect it to continue. And it really creates challenges. So part of what we have to do, I think it's part of why identifying our ideal customer is so significant, because we will know how to reward them to get more of the behavior that we desire. Whereas if we give these kinds of rewards, it's funny. For I don't know, 13 years in a row, was a diamond level medallion flyer on Delta. And it got to where at the last quarter of the year, I would fly from Indianapolis to Chicago to go to Atlanta to connect to Orlando so I could get the number of segments so I could keep that level of service. So the customers will respond when we set the bar and reward them for attaining that. But we've got to think about that. Scott has an interesting point here. This conversation is very much appreciated. I'm at the point of pivoting by adding another service with the hopes my company will change direction. Yeah. It's and that's, Scott, I love that you use the word pivot, because that is something that we often need to do. And if we identify an ideal customer, it means we need to pivot towards them. And by the way, when you pivot, it also means you kind of turn your back to something, and not in an offensive way, but I think there are some customers out there that our businesses would all be stronger if we turned our backs on them, if we stopped serving them. Agree, Jason? Disagree?
Absolutely. You can't possibly be all things to all people in your personal life or in your professional life. And when you try to do so, there's another cost. It's not, I mentioned the cost of the call center, spending money serving the customer, that expectation doesn't match the reality. And that's because the marketing message got them in. But the other cost is the cost on the employee, who has to sit there day in, day out and take the negativity, take the abuse, to the contact center manager that is like, oh, no matter what, I've got to hit this KPI and this KPI and this KPI. We create these challenges for our employees, and the more challenges that we create for our employees, the harder it is for them to stay on purpose and to deliver the experience that we actually want to be famous for. Southwest Airlines is well, they don't operate in Australia, and I know who they are, and I knew who they were before I'd ever gone to America, because they are
Interesting.
Everywhere used as an example of how to do business differently with the customer at the heart of what they do. Yet Southwest Airline is 100% double down on ensuring that they only market to their ideal customer. And by doing so, their employees are focused on delivering an experience that matches their marketing, and one that uplifts everybody, as opposed to brings stress and new challenges. And I often joke that the problem with Southwest being so good at what they've done, the only airline in American history to be profitable every single year. Okay, yes, the profit number varies greatly, but a black ink on your balance sheet is much better than the red ink that most airlines have had over the years. One of the challenges of being so good is that they're always held up as these case studies. And so you have people like me, land into LA, fortunate enough to be in a lay flat bed, get off my flight in LA, go through customs, go, I would need to try this Southwest thing, and go, what do you mean you don't have an assigned seat? Right? And they're like, but we didn't market to you. We weren't trying to get you as a customer. We were trying to get the people that love us to come back to us. And there are very loyal Southwest customers. I don't think anyone in Southwest's marketing team, in their customer teams, going, who's our customer? How do I get more customers to talk about us? They do it in droves. And they do it in droves because they know who they're serving. They deliver on their promises. And they make an experience that is worthy of remark.
I think Andy saw my last boarding pass on Southwest C40. That's Andy, you nailed it. That's so true. Yes, that tends to be. That's one of the problems I have when I fly Southwest, is I keep forgetting that the sooner I check in, the better number that I get, the number of seat that I get. And so I've ended up C40, where you're in the middle seat in the back row. But it's interesting. One of the challenges that Southwest is experiencing now, that I'm reading about and have experienced personally, is as they have grown so dramatically and grown. When Herb Kelleher was running, it was very dragged his feet quite a bit about expanding in new markets. It was a big deal when Southwest came into a market. They've expanded so much that how do you maintain the organizational culture when you've so rapidly expanded your operations and your number of employees and everything else that goes along with that? It's a very interesting challenge for Southwest. And as you continue to promote from within, who are you promoting? There was an article recently about how one of the things that Southwest had done is promote operations people who are concerned about getting the plane from point A to point B, who might be overlooking some of the important aspects of that customer experience that's so different, so unique, and so what they're known for. So this whole process we're talking about today never stops. It's not something that you've done. It's something you continue to work on, something you continue to do. And yeah, Andy, that has been the get to know you seat has been the one. As I wrote in a book, I trapped between the most recent penitentiary parolee and evidently a retired sumo wrestler is typically my my seat mates when I'm in the middle seat. Ted says it exactly right. Ted summarizes it perfectly. Trying to please everyone makes you distinctive to no one. And it's so true. It's really interesting because when we talk about some of the distinctive performers out there, whether it's an actor, a musical group, whatever it might be, the ones, I know people that are just tired of Tom Hanks. That is absolutely, I can't wrap my head around that because I think he's extraordinary. But even people that we think, oh, everybody likes him. No, it's not true. I know someone very well who thinks the Beatles were just terrible. I don't get that. But to Ted's point, the more people you try to please, the less distinctive that you are in the marketplace, which means the less attractive that you are in the marketplace. Dwayne is interested in questions you can ask to help peel back the layers to determine if a customer is right for you. That's a great question. Jason, I've got a couple. What would you suggest that people, the entrepreneurs and small businesses, be asking to see if a particular customer is right for you?
Well, one of the questions to ask is, what is their primary challenge? What are the problems that they face the most often? And I say that because your product, whether it be a physical good or a service, should be trying to solve problems, to add value, to enrich someone's life. And so what is the common every single day challenges, lifestyle that this individual has? Think about, if I go back to my Target days, when we bought out the Everyday Essentials line. It had a different name in the US, but the Everyday Essentials line, the whole reason that came out is around affordability, because the ideal customer at that stage in Target was really focused on affordability. And they didn't need a t-shirt to last a decade. They needed a t-shirt to last the child's growth spurt, that 6 months, that 3 months, that year. And they were talking to the university student that was going off to college for the first time and setting up their dorm room and wanted a toaster, or it's they're probably on their first part-time job. They're not going to spend $500 on that nice stainless steel model. They want the $5, $10 one that's going to do the job.
Sure.
And doesn't matter if it breaks down in 3 years' time, because they're probably going to throw it away anyway. And so what is the average day of your customer doing? And then see if there's a community you can serve there. That is, what is their average day and what is their challenges? They're the two questions I would start with.
I love that. I love that. That's that was going to be my point as well. We're on the same track about what are the problems that they need to get solved. A reminder as well, not exactly on this point, but a reminder as well that if they identify a problem that is not in your wheelhouse, if your customers, as you talk with them, identify a problem that is not really specifically what you solve, you're better off to refer them elsewhere than to move heaven and earth to try to solve that problem, hoping they will buy something else from you. Because first of all, if it's not in your wheelhouse of what you are all about, within your clarity, then the fact is there's probably somebody that could deliver better than you. And you run the risk of discouraging that customer from future purchases because you haven't delivered, at the standard that they would like. But the second thing is when you refer someone else, when you say, that isn't exactly what we do, so let me refer you to someone that this is right, perfectly perfect fit for their skills and their abilities. The trust that you gain from that means that when that customer is looking for what you do, they think of you first, because you have gained such a reservoir of goodwill with that customer that you've proven that you're trustworthy. If you'll say no to what you don't do, then when you say yes to what you will, the customer has a deep and abiding faith that you're going to be able to perform because you know what you do and you were willing to send them elsewhere for what you don't do.
Mm. And Scott, there's some really easy examples to go to where that has led to companies being famous, for sending customers away, but for all the right reasons. And, Zappos, which Tony Hsieh, rest in peace, Tony, but Tony, founded that, or was an early investor in that business and ultimately its leader. He focused his team members on doing what it takes to serve your customers, because that will build loyalty. I remember sending a tweet to the Zappos team saying, "I'm coming to Las Vegas. Where should I stay?" Now, if you don't know who Zappos is, I'd be shocked. But they're a shoe retailer originally, and here I am asking them about where to stay. Now, that not only did they respond, they gave me multiple suggestions and offered a whole range of choice. But in their wheelhouse, which is selling shoes, I reached out to them and said, "I want to buy a particular shoe. I'm going to get it shipped to my hotel room," and their response was, "We don't have it in stock, but we have found it on this website and they'll be able to ship it to you in time for you to,
Wow.
to get the shoes." Not only are they recommending people for things that they don't sell, they're recommending to people, their competitors, when they can't deliver on their promise. Now, that's going to the next level, and it's a very, it's more advanced than it sounds. But, the reality is, when I'm hungry and thirsty, Coca-Cola doesn't try to make me the food as well, right? They leave that to someone else because they want to be famous for, having the most refreshing drinks out there. You in your business can be the Coca-Cola of your industry, the Zappos of your industry, by focusing on delivering immense value in what you do best and helping people find their way to those auxiliary services that they may also need.
Samuel has it right. Service is actually caring about people, caring about customers, caring about their results, caring about what they can achieve and attain because of your products or services. Samuel's spot on. It's exactly right, and that comes from caring employees, and caring employees are created by entrepreneurs and business leaders that care about their team. So all of that, fits in. Well, Jason, we're about out of time. The question I would ask, and it's similar to the one that Dwayne asked just a little bit ago. If there were, let's say I'm in the position where I'm trying to sell to the world, and I've heard the conversation that you and I have had, and so now I'm going to determine my ideal customer. Could you give me some steps, some ideas of how I get started to narrow it down to my ideal customer? You mentioned about problems earlier. Maybe that's the first step.
Well, I would say the very first step would be to register for Stand Out, Earn More,
Yes.
the online workshop. But I'm somewhat trying to make a joke. And you should register if you haven't already. But the reality is that if you want to know who your ideal customer is, get 50 people that buy your competitors' products in a room and ask them questions. And if you want to really double down on getting clarity around who buys your product or who might buy your product, get 50 random people that have never bought your product and, if possible, your competitor's product, and ask them why they don't buy it. Because sometimes getting clarity around why people won't buy your product unlocks who your ideal customer is.
That's a great point. It's really interesting how many organizations I've worked for, and I'll ask them some kind of question about what's the goal of the organization, what is the overriding purpose, and more times than I can count, the response has been, we want to exceed customer expectations. So then I ask, okay, so what do your customers expect? And they will say, well, we believe our customer. And my response is always, no, what's the data? How many customers have you asked this of? How many of your competitors' customers have you asked that question? You can't exceed an expectation of which you are unaware. And what we have to do is exactly what you said, Jason. We've got to be talking to our customers. We've got to be talking to those who've chosen to buy elsewhere. We've got to have these ongoing communications because it's the only way that we're going to be able to determine how we target our ideal customer in a way that's cost effective and gives us the return on investment that we desire. I want us to close. I'm going to ask you for a last thought in just a second, but I want to echo what you were saying about our free program next week. We are going to be conducting a workshop on next Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. It'll be different days for the folks in Australia because of the different time, but just go to standoutearnmore.live. Standoutearnmore.live. We're going to be talking about how you earn more freedom in your business, how you earn more respect, how you earn more profit, of course, but how you earn more of the type of customers, the target customer that you desire. Hey, maybe even the target employee, because in today's world where we are hearing so much about challenges in staffing, we have some ideas and some very specific approaches to help you get on board the kind of people that you desire, high performers. So all of that is going to be covered over the 3 sessions that we'll be conducting next week. It's absolutely free to sign up. If you'd like more, like the ability to download the sessions and you'd like the ability to have hot seats and longer conversations with Jason and myself, you can upgrade for a very, very minimal price to a VIP seat. So the session itself is absolutely free. We would love for you to be a part of it. Just go to standoutearnmore.live. And it will give you all the information about the dates, times, everything else for our program next week. So last thoughts, Jason.
Once you know who your ideal customer is, it gives you the opportunity to maximize the impact of every dollar you spend to attract a new customer, because you get to hang out with your ideal customer where they are and join the conversations they're having so that they decide to do business with you.
Spot on. I wrote in one of my books that you better know who your target customer is. You can't imagine Barney the dinosaur performing at a penitentiary. you can't imagine a very erotic play in a convent. Those are very outlandish examples, but the fact of the matter is, Barney's done pretty well without appealing to that demographic group, right? I mean, they know who their target market is. So that's what we have to do as well. Know your ideal customer, and that's who you want to be distinctive with. That's who you want to stand out for, because when you do that, you'll earn more. Hey, Jason, we'll be back here tomorrow with a new topic at the same time. So I look forward to seeing you tomorrow, and thanks to everybody asking questions, and really, really appreciate your participation. Thanks, Jason. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks, everyone.